I'm Vicki Hogarth and welcome to Southwest Magazine. Team Canada took home the bronze medal in both the team category and the individual category at the STIHL Timbersports World Championships in France this year. Here to tell us all about it is half of Team Canada, Ben and Nathan Cumberland, and their proud father, Rod Cumberland, and also self-proclaimed water boy. Thank you all for being here today.
Thanks for having us. Yeah,
and Ben, I should mention, you are the bronze medalist in the individual category too, so a huge accomplishment. You've brought your bronze medals here to be with us today, but tell us a little bit about the competition itself. What was it like to travel to France to be a part of this world championship?
Oh man, it was pretty surreal. I was very fortunate with my results nationally in 2023, so I was the returning Canadian champion, and in 2023 at the World Championships things didn't really go my way, so I was very thankful to be blessed enough to go back and have another kick at the can and try to put my best foot forward for representing my country.
And Nathan, for people who aren't aware of what timber sports are, break down for us what it is to compete in and what categories you compete in.
So timber sports, the STIHL Timbersports is sort of like the Olympics of the lumberjacking world. So there's 6 different events that competitors compete in the individual competition, 3 chopping, 3 sawing, and then in the teams race, it's a relay race. So we do 4 events in a row, and it's an elimination format.
And Rod, these are your boys. I think you're a pretty famous face around this part of the world as well. How proud are you right now of their accomplishments?
You don't want to get me crying right off the bat here on the show, do you? Obviously, back when I was competing, it was a dream to be able to compete. I thought someday maybe I'll be able to compete with the boys, but they had to get good fast, and I had to retain a little bit of ability. So, thankfully, we've been very blessed that that's happened. So, I guess this was pretty big, but I mean, again, back in 2015 and 2016, the other STIHL also does something. They do the big event in the fall, which is a teams race and the individual, but in the spring they also have the Rookie World Championship, and they have the trophy, which is a relay race that one guy does for a country. So I've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to go over there as the coach for Team Canada for the rookie for STIHL Timbersports. So I've been to Europe a number of times doing that, but the biggest thing for me was the first time we went in 2015, Nathan won the Worlds. He was the World Rookie Champion. And then in 2016, Ben had won, and we went over in St. Johann in Tyrol, and he won. So we had 2 back-to-back World Championships back there at the rookie level. So that was pretty big for me, but I never thought that I'd ever get there in the fall of the year with these guys and with what happened last fall. So that was kind of neat.
And we should mention that all of Team Canada was from New Brunswick, which is a huge point of pride for all of us here. You all come by this quite naturally. Can you tell us a little bit about how you train for this? And I know that your careers have led you down this path as well, but how do you get ready for something this big?
This year, leading up to the championships, it was a lot of fine-tuning, working on the mental aspect of competing. Nathan loves to kind of get inside my head and give me a ribbon every now and then. It's like, you got to pick it up here. But I watched a lot of videos on technique, world-class choppers and sawyers, and trying to pick up things that I could do. Obviously, there's the fitness aspect, so I was in the gym as much as I could. I'm a husband and a father first and foremost, so that's where a lot of my time went after my day job as well. And then just a lot of training the events, strength training, a little bit of cardio, and then just trying to mentally prepare for the insanity that is timber sports in Europe.
with thousands of people watching too on top of that, so that can add to the pressure, I'm sure.
Yeah, and to a degree, there's kind of like the initial, when they do the athlete introductions or the team introductions, and you're carrying your nation's flag, but after a little bit, it's just kind of run-of-the-mill routine. You step on the log and you got to chop it in half, or run the chainsaw or the single buck. So at times and points like that during the competition, I didn't really hear much of the crowd. And usually once the event was done, you're kind of take a deep breath, and then you realize that there's 5,000 people there screaming and cheering and watching you compete.
You're the older brother by 18 months.
That's correct.
So having that in the family, was that a healthy competitiveness? Did that push you both to be as good as you are, to have each other sort of competing at the same time, both as teammates but also as competitors?
Yeah, we were very blessed to be close in age, and it was always a friendly rivalry. It was never, it was always, we were competitive with each other, but even when we were growing up at home, like as soon as one person would hear the other person out training, you were, okay, I should probably go train. And then, you know, as we're training, we're watching the other person saying, okay, maybe, you know, maybe try this, technique this, and just helping the other person. Then it shows it's great too, because we can help each other at different events, and even at the Worlds too. It's good to know, you know, that the guy I compete with all summer is right there, and it's just, yeah, we've been really blessed with that.
And Rod, I think anyone who's been to the Charlotte County Fall Fair knows how great you are at timber sports. Can you tell us a little bit about how you trained these two as they were growing up to get not just into this sport, but also the career paths that they're on?
That's pretty interesting, actually, because when they were little, I mean, at the time, you know, I had one of them was in diapers all the time when I was, you know, competing at a high level in the province. So, you know, you'd do an event, then change a diaper, and then do something else. And once we had 4 kids, it got to be a little much. So in all honesty, what I did that was probably the best thing in the world I did is we stopped doing lumberjack sports. So I stopped in 97, and then we played baseball and had Roddy Wilson and Derek come up and help us with the baseball team. And then we did hockey in the wintertime. So these guys didn't even really see it much. And of course, because I'm so competitive, I had to sell my gear and stay away from it. I would have jumped back into it. But then we had a lot of videos at home. So they actually watched a lot of the guys on TV. And, you know, big names from my era, you know, Mel Lentz, Mike Sullivan, all those guys. And then, and I kind of waited. The other thing we did is every summer we'd have a little mini competition amongst our family. So you'd get a pair, so it usually was me with the youngest daughter, and then those guys paired up with their mother and the other sister. And we just have fun. You know, it was just all fun. And then all of a sudden, when they got to be, you know, in their early teen years, they wanted to try it again. So I think we had the Keswick Fair was on up in Keswick. They were doing this big, huge event around the Keswick Fair, and they wanted something lumberjack. So we did an amateur competition. And I think that's when they kind of got into it again a little bit, and they were training a bit for this. All of them did, except for Katie, I think, at that time, Ben, Nate, and Emily. And we had the Keswick Fair. We had a whole bunch of 4-H clubs come up from Nova Scotia, and it was a big event. And we had, 1,000 people there from the local community watching it. It was crazy. And the boys did really well. So that really sparked the interest in the community, and also I think it ignited the interest in these guys. And then away they went, and then it was... they still were competing a little bit, but I think we were at a show in Stanley, and we were watching Don Lambert, who's been to the Charlotte County, the St. Stephen International for years. He's won it a couple times. And he's really good. So we were watching him at Stanley, and Nathan was in the same heat. We kind of looked away from Nathan watching Donald. And all of a sudden they said, oh, he's done. And we went, who? Nathan? What? And he wasn't only done, he broke a provincial record. And we were like, what? I don't know, he's 15 or something. We went, what happened there? So I knew that. And of course they grew, right? Something that I didn't do, although I keep teasing my grandfather was 5 foot, my dad was 5'6", I was 6 foot. So every generation we've gained 6 inches. So even though these guys are massive, I always tease them, say, you know, guys, they're not pulling your weight. You're supposed to gain 6 inches. They only gain 4, but but even still, with their size, I thought, man, you know, they've been around it their whole life, and with that size and the intensity they have, like there's loads of potential there to do well, and we're seeing that. It's pretty awesome to watch. What
is both of your preferred category, the one that you master, that you feel the most comfortable in, and which do you find the most challenging aspect of competing?
We probably both enjoy the chopping more so than the sawing.
Anything with an axe. That's what I tend towards. However, the one that God's really blessed me in is the single buck.
Tell me a little bit about that. You brought it with you here today, and I'm sure in a wide shot of the studio everyone can see what's behind between Nathan and Rod. Tell me the story behind this particular one.
Well, this particular blade here is just our training blade. Currently, our competition blade is in Europe, but there's just for whatever reason, God's just really given me a gifting and just kind of a knack for running the single buck. So
Ben is the current STIHL Timbersports world record holder for the single buck.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And what's your strategy when you do it? Or is that secret?
No, it's definitely not a secret. It's a lot of different tips and tricks and technique and training from a lot of different people. One thing that we've kind of always tried to do was pick up things from anyone who's winning an event and then see if that works for us. And then if it doesn't, then we just toss it and try and find something else that'll make our technique or our strength or something a little bit better. We have a phenomenal single buck saw from JP Mercier. He's one of the best saw filers in the world. And everything just kind of came together last year at the Nationals in Chilliwack, British Columbia, and I managed to set the world record.
So to add a bit to that, Ben actually set the world record initially in 2019 at the World Championships. The record was broken in 2022 by another Canadian who was on the team this year, Marcel Dupuis. And then in 2023 at the Nationals in Canada, Ben actually set the record again. So Canada's had that record for a few years now.
And I guess we could say New Brunswick too.
There you go. Yeah,
absolutely. Nathan, what do you find the most challenging in terms of the different categories?
I definitely like the chopping the best. The most challenging is probably the hot saw. So when you're taking 250cc dirt bikes or 325 Rotax engines and turning them into a chainsaw, and then you have to make 3 cuts with them. And the way that STIHL has changed their formatting of the competition now, it's an elimination format for the individual competition. So the first round you do the standing block, underhand, and stock saw. The second round the points are double and you do single buck and springboard. And then the third round is hot saw and it's triple points. So when the competition was just everyone does all 6 events, the points are all equal, you didn't have to be great at the hot saw. Now in order to win you have to be really, really good. So it's something that is very challenging to practice and just to get good at.
Wow. And because of all the tools and machinery involved, are there ever injuries? What are the precautions that you need to take? I say this as someone who took wood shop and worried the teacher. So that's me.
Dad, I think that's a good question for you to answer.
Yeah, seeing as I just bought the whole family chainmail. In the chopping events, where you're using razor sharp axes, people don't recognize it because you're usually wearing something soft on your feet like flat-soled sneakers, but they all have chainmail underneath. And I guess back in the day when I first started competing, I bought a brand new pair of steel-toed sneakers, and I was on a block up in the mirror machine. I glanced and went into my foot about this far behind the steel toe and cut right into my foot, and they took me to the hospital in the ambulance and they got it sewed up, and I said, "Can you take me back the same way you brought me here?" And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "With the lights and sirens on." And they did. They took me back in the ambulance with the lights and sirens on so I could make the last 2 events and compete in them. But of course, with that many stitches, it didn't really help much. But so now everybody wears chainmail underneath your shoes, which is good. And then the other one that I probably shouldn't talk like this, but I did get 17 stitches just 2 years ago in my hand in the kettle boil event, which is another one we love to do. And I don't know, the Cumberlands have been in an emergency I don't know how many times in the last 2 years, so I finally said, okay, enough's enough. We're all buying chainmail gloves. I've never worn chainmail glove in my hand in the kettle boil for years and years and years, but I did cut my hand pretty bad racing. So anyways, we all have a chainmail glove now. And then of course in the hot saw and the stock saw, you wear the chainsaw gear. So, eye ear protection and the chainsaw pants. So you're pretty well protected. I mean, you're not, things can always go a little bit sideways, but for the most part, people are pretty.
It's like any sport. It has its dangers, right. But in all fairness, we've been very blessed in the 20 years or so that we've been competing. We've never really seen anyone get very injured, and it just happens that, we're using razor sharp axes and stuff, so if you do get cut, it's usually a good cut. Yeah.
Timber sports just feel like a part of New Brunswick culture, but as we've seen the popularity of things like axe throwing go around the world, even in these like high-density urban centers, are you finding that's the same when you go to France and you see thousands of people in the audience? Are you finding that it's more and more that the whole world is paying attention to what you're doing?
It's an interesting kind of dichotomy when you look at how North America views timber sports versus how Europe views it, because North America, any time that we were at a competition, it's always very historically based. a lot of communities were founded by the loggers and the woodsmen that went to the lumber camps and, you know, actually cleared land and sent logs to the mills. Whereas while Europe does have that history, this side of timber sports as we know it now, because here in Canada and New Brunswick, like we call them woodsman competitions or lumberjack competitions. But timber sports in Europe it's fanatical because they're trying to make it, and it is becoming like an extreme sport. You know, one of the taglines is STIHL Timbersports, the original extreme sport. So like sponsors like Red Bull and things like that. So in that vein, the fan base is becoming absolutely fanatical. So it's a bit different than the kind of laid back pace that you sort of experience at the local competitions or the North American competitions. And it's always fun to go over and meet people that are saying, oh yeah, you know, I just can't wait. You know, there's going to be 5,000 people in the stadium. It's just going to be nuts, and it usually is.
As you see the popularity grow, do you think it's something, we were mentioning this before the camera started rolling, that we could see even aspects of this maybe one day in the Olympics?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll ever be Olympic sport. I mean, it probably has potential. There's enough countries that do it. I've heard talks about, when people have been talking about being Olympic sport, just with the wood and stuff, it's hard to make it a completely consistent and fair event, but I don't see any reason why it couldn't be. So.
How did you qualify for the STIHL Timbersports Championship? How do you get involved if you're someone who is taking this seriously and wants to compete?
So I guess there's kind of two different lumberjack or timber sports competitions. So in Eastern Canada, and throughout the entire country of Canada, there's timber sports. But then on the east coast of Canada, we have the Maritime Lumberjack Association. So it's all the local competitions, like the one that used to be held here in St. Stephen. So for STIHL, you have to send in a resume initially with times from different events and competitions. They pick certain athletes. They go, so for this year, we had a qualifier in Truro, Nova Scotia. You competed in 4 events. They took a certain number of athletes from that qualifier to the Nationals, which was in Kelowna, British Columbia. And then in Kelowna, Ben was blessed to win the Nationals and represent Canada at the individual from that. And then they picked the team based off of who won what events. So if you won the underhand chop, you would do the underhand chop in the individual comp or in the team relay, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, Ben won the single buck, the standing block, and the underhand. So we kind of had to just pick, okay, who's second, who's third, and who's fourth. So I was blessed to qualify that way, and same as Ben, and then Marcel and Nick Russell, the other 2 members, qualified the same way.
Wow. So what are your goals going forward? What's next for you in terms of competitions or where you see yourself going?
Well, as far as goals, I mean, I've been extremely blessed to reach the level that I have, and I would be lying if I said I didn't want to win the World Championships.
And you did almost, you were very close. I should let people at home know. The gold was this close.
Well, and see, the thing is, like, just with the triple points and the way that STIHL Timbersports handles tie-breaking and things like that,
I would also tied for second.
I did tie for second with the disqualification, but then the tie break is they add up all of your event times through the day, and then your total time is what breaks the tie. And because I disqualified in hot saw, that's I think
3 minutes.
It's a 3 minute 3 minute time penalty. So my disqualification bumped me out of the tie for second. However, to place in first, I would have had to make a hot saw cut in about 6.65 seconds, like right around 6.6 seconds, which the fastest I've ever cut in hot saw in that size wood was in 2023 in the hot saw showdown, and I cut in 6.8, and that's the fastest I've ever cut. So to have put down a time to put me on the top of the podium, I would have had to cut the fastest hot saw cut of my life. And I was talking with Nathan, I was talking with Marcel, and Nathan doesn't do points, but Nathan is very good at just settling my mind down and saying, like, you know, just go do what you know how to do. Marcel's a points guy like Dad. So Marcel was like, you're on the podium whether you DQ or you have the hot saw cut of your life. So it's your call. And I didn't see the message from the text message from my wife, who said just put 3 good cuts on the deck and you'll be fine. However, in my head, I'm just thinking, I have nothing to lose. I'm going to get a bronze. This is the best placing of my individual career so far. There's no reason why I shouldn't just go for it and try to cut as fast as I can, because a lot of the best hot sawyers will say that you're either going pedal to the metal or you're just lackadaisical coast. So I said I'm pedal to the metal for this one.
It's how you train hot saw and compete, right? You're always competing and training racing. So to go to an event and say, okay, I'm going to go slow is not what you're used to doing. So, and to put it into perspective, going into the last round, Ben was leading the competition by 6 points. So he was well ahead of everyone else. It was just that with the way the hot saw went and the triple points, he ended up tying for second. So
what was it like to have your dad there, who, I mean, it's great to have your parents for moral support no matter what you're doing, but to also have a parent there who is as gifted as he is at the same thing you're doing. What was that like support-wise, and what advice did he give you?
So it was great to have both Dad and Mom there. Mom was obviously watching and cheering in the crowd, although I'm not sure how much she actually watched.
Usually she watches it like this.
and I get that. It's nerve-wracking to watch. But in the teams race, the wood they chop over at the Worlds, it's a cottonwood, and it brings up a lot of grit through the tree as it's growing. So when you chop with razor-sharp axes, it'll actually take the edge off the axes. So what we would do, and as if you're blessed to continue through on the elimination races, you have less and less time between heats. So there was some times where we would literally walk off the stage and have to turn around and go mark our blocks for the next round. And what we were blessed to have Dad do was he could stone and sharpen our axes, he could clean the saws, spray the saws with the WD-40 and stuff. So having that person is an incredible benefit, because there was only the 4 members of the team. We didn't have someone to do that. So it was a comfort and a relief knowing that, okay, we walk off the stage, we're handing him our axes, and then when we come back from marking off our blocks, we know they're sharpened and ready to go, and we can go back on the stage. So it was a lot of help.
So Rod, much more than a water boy, I would say.
Oh, it was critical to the medal.
It was.
No, it's just good to be there, really, and watch him. And this guy here's being pretty modest right now, but he's a 2-time national champion, so he's gone to the Worlds before as well in the same position as Nathan. So they both had good exposure. So I'd like to push them a little bit more on where they see this going in the next couple of years, because I'll tell you, they're right on the precipice of being there. They're very competitive.
Almost too humble, which is why I had to interrupt to say you tied for second, and they had to figure out that you were third based on just time. So you really were in the second place position, but you were so close to being gold before that. So that's huge. But what would be the crowning moment for you? What would you be able to say? That's the goal that I reached, that I wanted to hit.
Within the sport, it would be to win the individual world championship, and to be able to stand on top of the team world championship. That would probably be the icing on the cake, because oftentimes when people ask me what one of my favorite memories is of timber sports, there's the rookie world championships in 2016, but 6 months prior to that, in 2015, I actually got to compete as the rookie spare on the same team as Nathan, and that was my first trip to Europe to see the World Championships. I got to see the insane crowds that are over there, but I got to do it on the same, one of the highest stages, highest levels of competition with my brother, and so now I can say that I won a bronze medal with my brother on the team. So it's I would like to win. I would like to win the Team World Championship, because the level of camaraderie and just kind of the brotherhood that forms within the team is there's just something about a team sport that you don't really get in individual. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to win the individual as well. But I mean, just like I said earlier, I'm a husband and a father first, so that's where. If a decision has to be made, that's where my priorities are going to go.
I'd be totally content to retire tomorrow and walk away from it. God's really blessed us at the sport. We've had a lot of fun traveling and going and seeing different parts of the world and competing. But competing and doing well is great. But to me, I just love the sport. Mm-hmm. My wife will tell you it's pretty much the only thing I watch. It's the only thing I talk about. I really enjoy the sport. So, if I had the opportunity to go to the World, it's going to be great, and I'd be very blessed with that. But I love going to our local shows. I love competing. I love just watching it. So I don't have any goals other than just I love competing, and I'll continue to do that as long as God blesses me at it.
When would be the next time if people are watching this at home and they were hoping to watch you compete? Is there
right?
Okay.
No.
Tell
right
us,
now,
tell
actually,
us when.
it's they film the Nationals every year. So, and actually, Nathan texted me the other day and said, "Hey, it's on TSN," and it is. So if you have whatever it's, I don't know what it's called, cable or what, but it's just go to TSN and look for STIHL Timbersports, and all the events at the Nationals are playing right now through Christmas and into the New Year. So you can watch it there, and if you want to see what this is like, STIHL Timbersports, just go to YouTube, and you can search on YouTube for the 2024 STIHL Timbersports World Championship. You can even go back and watch the 2015 Rookie World Championship and the 2016 World Rookie Championships. So it's all right there on YouTube. If you just Google it, it comes up, and there's a great half-hour entertainment for you some evening.
Wow.
So yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to pick this up for the cameras right now because I've never held a world medal before. So very impressive. But I think the thing that I'm most jealous of, and I shouldn't say jealous because I really mean envious, is what this sport has done to bring you all together as a family. And I think that's maybe the most beautiful thing about this. What do you take away from this as a dad, as brothers, as sons, in terms of what this sport has brought to your family and to your bond? Let's make Rod cry.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, and you know what? The older I get, the easier it is. So, Mr. Tough Guy, man, that's all going the way of the dodo bird. But especially with grandkids, man, alive, it's bad. But for me, the proudest thing is doing this as a family is when I go over there and people say, I'm like the lady from Switzerland. She's the steel rep there, and she met the boys. And so when I saw her, we were over there in spring doing the Champions Trophy and the Rookie World Championship. So I met her there, Karen, and she was a great host. And we got to know each other pretty well. Had an awesome fondue up in the Alps. It was incredible. So when I came back, and she said, I finally met both of your boys. She said, and they're good competitors, but they're really nice people. Mm. That's what matters to me. Yeah. Like they're good human beings. So
what's it like to do a sport that I was telling you before we started? I was great at basketball growing up, but no one has asked me in my adult life to get a ball in a basket very far away. I could do it, but you've done a sport that's actually quite useful. How has it enriched your life being this excellent at timber sports?
I'll talk just quickly about it, and I'll talk about Ben because he won't talk about himself. But we've been blessed to host a competition in Mactaquac. So if anyone does want to see these competitions locally throughout the year, like you said, we kind of slow down throughout the wintertime, but in the summer there will be competitions all throughout the Maritimes. Maritime Lumberjack Association on Facebook will have all that information. But the competition in Mactaquac, Ben's been very blessed to win that the last 2 years, and he's actually won Husqvarna chainsaws as his overall award. Yeah. So in the wintertime, Ben works in the woods as a logger and a lumberjack, felling trees and stuff, so he's been able to use the saws that he's won competing and been blessed to win as the chainsaws that he's cutting with. So it's pretty cool. So
not just the skill, but the tools as well. How incredible. What do you hope people take away after they watch this interview about the sport itself?
It's, at least for us, and I know that the sentiment is echoed by a lot of other competitors, but there's just a very tight-knit connection that a lot of people have coast to coast, worldwide. You can go anywheres, and if a couple people are involved in timber sports in any ways, they're like, oh yeah, hey, let's hang out. Oh, you need a place to stay? Oh yeah. Oh, you need some gear to compete at this next show? Yeah, no problem. And anyway, so it's very much a family-oriented community, more or less. Like, honestly, one of the greatest things is just being able to meet people, and to be able to do it with my family, and then have my kids want to do it. Like my son Leo just runs around. I made him an axe for his second Christmas gift, and he has beat that thing into oblivion, and he chops and saws anything and everything. And the people actually in STIHL Europe were very gracious and sent him a toy chainsaw, and actually Mom and Dad bought him one as a Christmas gift as well. So he not only runs the chainsaw, but he'll set the chainsaw down and then put his hands up on on the toy box or something, and they say stand to your timber, and then he'll reach down and pick up the chainsaw. Like he's actually competing. So family is a huge part of this sport and what has made it so special to me.
And Nathan, what about you?
I would echo everything that Ben has said. My son's the same way. He has a saw, chainsaw, and an axe he chops with, and it's great. But for anyone watching, I would just want to tell them it's a family-friendly sport. It's something that a lot of people probably don't know about, but everyone has a grandfather or an uncle or someone they know who's worked in the woods, or they were a log driver on the St. Croix River or whatever that might be, right? So it's a sport that a lot of people don't know about, but I encourage people to look into it, especially the shows throughout the Maritimes. They're great competitions. They are family friendly, and it's a really, really great sport.
And Rod, as the most overqualified water boy I've ever met, please let's have the final thoughts of this show with you today.
Well, we're in Charlotte County, and for us here, if you go back through the historical records, like lumbering was a big thing here in Charlotte County, and my great grandfather worked in the woods on both sides. On my Herb Weatherby, I actually have his original axe that he felled with in the woods, and I have it all done up, and I actually competed with it at the St. Stephen International one year in the springboard shop. I didn't win it. I got second that year.
The axe was made here in St. Stephen.
It was made here at the axe factory, right down at the bottom of the. Yeah, so I mean that's kind of neat, And then on my mom's side of the family, Dorothy Merrill lived on Mark Street. She used to come to the competition every year because she cut up the firewood. She had 12 kids. She used to cut the firewood with all her kids throughout the years with a crosscut saw. So she loved coming down and seeing, us competing with crosscut saws. And she'd always say, I used to cut the firewood with all the kids. And then her husband, John Merrill, was, or they called him Jack. He was the best log driver on the Nashwauk River way back in the day. And he was always at the Stanley Fair, and people would gather around and listen. He was quite a storyteller, apparently. But it doesn't take anybody in this neck of the woods. You go back a couple generations, and they have people that have worked in the woods. So it's part of our heritage, and it's just really cool to be still doing that, keep the traditions alive, and thankfully we've got 3 young kids from Charlotte County that are doing their best to keep it going. So we've been pretty fortunate to do well at it, and it's just fun. We just have a lot of fun.
I should say too, Dad's name when he was competing was the Charlotte County Chopper. That was his nickname. So
I'm not surprised at all. Well, thank you all for being here today. Thank you for bringing attention to the sport. Thank you for bringing home the bronze medal for Canada. It's incredible.
Thanks. An honor.
Thanks, Vicki.
My guests today have been Ben, Nathan, and Rod Cumberland, who brought home the bronze medal for Canada at the STIHL Timbersports World Championships in France. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.